My wife trained Navy SEALs, but it wasn't until an HOA lady measured our grass with a school ruler and threatened to call the cops over cows grazing too freely that I understood why they called her Ghost. The neighbors thought we were just a couple raising cattle and lifting weights, but Candace, with her clipboard, dark sunglasses, and delusions of grandeur, turned grass height into a full-blown military campaign. Spoiler alert, that clipboard didn't survive. Welcome to Metabrook, where they measure grass like traffic cops wield radar guns. What started as a silly citation turned into the kind of standoff you wouldn't believe unless you lived it. Let's just say you never really know who your spouse is until a cop shows up in your barnyard. Ever dealt with HOA insanity? Think if Candace got a laser ruler, she'd try to claim the moon next. Drop your story below. I bet it's wild. I'm Brad, a retired Marine now living the quiet life on a 20-acre farm in Alabama with my wife Kelly. We grow veggies, raise a few cows, and live that strategic retirement life, sipping coffee on the porch, occasionally fixing fences the cows knocked down. Everything was peaceful until Kelly decided to turn our old barn into a small gym, a place for local women to lift weights and gossip about their husbands. Cute idea, right? Turns out, it lit the fuse on a bomb named Candace. I first met Candace while picking out watermelons at Piggly Wiggly. Yep, the one place you go to avoid drama, and there she was, a walking landmine. She stood there in a blinding white blazer, clutching a clipboard like she was auditing tomatoes, and eyeing Kelly like a TSA scanner. Before I could say a word, she dropped a sugar-coated knife. Hi there, I'm Candace Monroe, president of the Metabrook Homeowners Association. I trust your family will uphold the community standards we've worked so hard to maintain. Then, without anyone asking, she started taking notes on her phone when she heard the word cattle. Kelly stayed polite, like a bank teller dealing with a cranky customer. Me? I just stood there like a cow listening to Beethoven. 3 days later, Candace rolled up to our gate, dressed like she was about to argue a case at the Supreme Court. Tailored blazer, dark sunglasses, and, of course, that clipboard her third arm. She marched in like the FBI sent her. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, I'm here for the mandatory compliance inspection for new residents. I never signed anything saying someone could waltz onto my property with a ruler and an attitude fit for a grounded prom queen, but Candace toured our yard, measuring grass clumps, counting cows like she was appraising assets for a foreclosure. After an hour and a half wielding her ruler like a samurai sword, she handed us a 3-page violation notice. Holy items included grass exceeding 3 inches, cows visible from the road, and backyard aesthetic non-compliant with community image. Kelly stepped forward, calm but sharp. Mrs. Monroe, we reviewed the HOA rules before buying. With over 10 acres, we're exempt from livestock restrictions. Candace flashed a smile colder than a popsicle. The rules are evolving, dear. Community standards must be upheld. I don't know where standards include measuring grass with a school ruler and sniffing out cow dung quotas, but what I do know, Candace wasn't just power-hungry. She was the HOA version of a control freak, born from a clipboard and raised on printer ink. As soon as she left, Kelly turned to me and said something that sent chills down my spine. Brad, she's not inspecting land, she's building a case. I saw in my wife's eyes, not anger, but calculation. Not fear, but readiness. The kind of look I'd only seen in combat vets, when they know the fight ahead is unavoidable. I realized Candace thought she was intimidating 2 farmers, but she'd just declared war on Ghost, a nickname I didn't even know my wife had from her military days. And that's when it hit me. This weed war wasn't about rulers anymore. This was Operation Reclaim Metabrook. I don't know what bugged Candace more, our cows breathing too loudly or Kelly's perfect grammar, because right after the grass measuring fiasco, she started showing up every morning like a human alarm clock posted by our mailbox, holding a coffee cup like a prop, pretending to just be there as Kelly jogged by. I say pretending because I caught her once from the window, standing there 10 minutes before Kelly came out, adjusting her hair twice, and doing 4 push-ups. Yep, Meadowbrook's HOA clearly recruits from the part-time stalker job board. Kelly stayed her usual polite self, but I knew something was up when she told me, "Don't worry, hun, I just need the printer." An hour later, I saw her send off a 2-page response. Not defending herself, but correcting Candace's violation notice for spelling errors. She marked every mistake like she was grading a 5th grader's homework, line by line. Contrary to Section 3.1 of the bylaws, you wrote your instead of your 6 times in a row. I've never seen someone get slapped with syntax and not even dodge. Candace got the letter the next morning, and from then on, she switched to spy mode. I'm not kidding. I caught her hiding behind a streetlight using kitty binoculars like she was in a preschool espionage game. Every time Kelly watered plants, she scribbled notes. Every time Kelly hung laundry, she muttered. Every time Kelly used the bathroom... Okay, I'm not sure, but I started closing the blinds just in case. Weirdly, it wasn't both of us she was after. Nope, just Kelly. Like my wife was a classified Pentagon file she needed to crack. I started asking questions I never thought I'd ask in married life. What did my wife do before opening a gym? Kelly stayed calm, documenting everything. Times, locations, behaviors. She was so thorough, I half expected her to start teaching HOA-induced PTSD legal self-defense classes. But what blew my mind wasn't her response. It was how she predicted Candace's every move, like this HOA lady was playing a game Kelly had taught others to play and win. Then one afternoon I heard Kelly let out a sharp laugh in the kitchen. The kind not listed in the marriage handbook, only heard in crime dramas. I walked in to find her holding a report from the city inspector filed by Candace. Yep, Candace had escalated from grass measuring to snitching to city officials. In one day, we got visits from environmental, building, health, and, I'm guessing, cattle allergy inspector. But Kelly was ready with a color-coded binder of permits, photos, and rebuttal forms, organized by the sheer absurdity of each claim. That's when it hit me. Candace thought she was fighting a battle. Kelly was running a campaign. Every HOA move was documented, countered with legal precision, and filed as evidence. I saw in my wife's eyes a preparedness that was not normal. I asked her straight up, "Kelly, where'd you learn this stuff? I mean, regular folks don't know city complaint procedures." She looked at me, tilted her head like she was debating whether to spill the truth, and said, "Some skills you pick up in structured environments. Especially when those environments..." That's when I started wondering. Maybe my wife did more than count plank reps for gym clients, and Candace, with her clipboard, binoculars, and school ruler, might have just dug her own HOA grave. If you're thinking, surely Candace backed off by now, nope. She had one more trick, and yes, it involved a phone call, a surprise inspection, and a wrongly drawn gun that nearly put us on the 6 o'clock news. Stick around for the rest of this story because, trust me, you don't want to miss the part where Candace almost got my wife shot over a fitness manual. And drop a comment, if you were me, would you install cameras or buy another printer? If you've ever wondered what your wife did before you met her, just wait until you see her sketching HOA schematics with a marker, like a battlefield map, marking every spot Candace stood, every hour she appeared, and assigning each board member a code like their targets in a recon mission. Every sheet on the wall was labeled Target Behavioral Patterns. I thought I married a gym trainer, not a part-time intelligence operative. The day it all clicked was when I overheard 2 old ladies at the pet food aisle while picking out cereal at the store. One said something that stopped me cold. That Monroe woman, she's got a stack of old newspapers, digging into some training accident from way back. Something about the military. I'm no Sherlock, but when you hear Candace, training accident, and newspapers in one sentence, trust me, it's not because she's a collector. That night, I came home to Kelly sitting in a war zone of documents. Everything was sorted, coded, and highlighted like a textbook attacked by a hyperactive student. But she wasn't reading. She was staring at an old newspaper article with a look I'd never seen. Not sad, not angry, but the kind of look someone has after surviving a fire and still smelling the smoke. "Brad," she said, her voice so soft I had to hold my breath to hear. I think I know why Candace hates me. The article was short. A few paragraphs about a Navy Special Ops training mishap where a recruit named Rachel Monroe got injured during a nighttime water drill. Result? Her military career ended. Tucked at the bottom, in tiny italics like an afterthought, Instructor K. Hayes declined to comment on the incident. I looked from the article to Kelly's face and felt a chill like I'd opened a freezer by mistake. Likely? Pues. That's you? I asked. She nodded. No dodging, no excuses, just a nod that said she'd made a choice, and that choice, though right, came with consequences. Kelly explained that Rachel had broken safety protocols during a night exercise and nearly got her team killed. Kelly had to cut her from the training program. I'm not proud, Kelly said, but I'm not sorry. One mistake in training can kill on the battlefield. Her voice wasn't cold. It was steady, like bedrock. The kind of steady only someone who's made life or meth calls can hold on to. And then it all clicked. Candace was Rachel's sister. When she moved to Metabrook and realized the woman who ruined her sister's military dreams lived 2 lots away, she didn't need therapy. She had something stronger, HOA power and a rule book written in ink, and personal grudges. I started to see why Candace didn't care about grass or cows. What she wanted was Kelly to grovel for forgiveness. And if there was no real crime, she'd invent one. Only she didn't know she was targeting Ghost, Kelly's old nickname. Not because she was sneaky, but because anything wrong around her vanished after she handled it. I thought back to all the times Kelly calmly countered Candace, correcting spelling errors, color-coded binders, behavioral charts, not because she had a lawyer's streak, but because she'd trained people who couldn't afford mistakes. And now Candace was trying to corner someone like that. If you think the HOA war was wild already, wait until an anonymous call turned our farm into a domestic violence scene, with cops showing up, hands on their holsters. Yup. Next time, I'll tell you about the moment that clipboard nearly got my wife a gun pointed at her over a barn gym session. Stay tuned for the next part because you won't want to miss the scene where a cop loses it over a squat rack. And don't forget to comment. Do you think Candace is digging her own legal grave? If you thought HOAs were just about warning letters and pastel-colored fines, congratulations! You've never lived near Candace Monroe. After 3 weeks of clipboard crusades, grass measuring, and a truckload of unresolved grudges, Candace upped her game. An anonymous call to the cops reporting domestic violence. Yep. She saw my wife hanging yoga mats in the yard and decided a murder must be happening inside. If Candace played chess, I'd bet she's the rogue piece, charging around, screaming chaos. That morning, we were brewing coffee when a police cruiser screeched up to our gate like a scene from a low-budget action flick. The officer stepped out, middle-aged, slight beard gut, mustache screaming, "I trust no one but me," hand hovering over his holster like he was chasing an escaped convict, not checking on cow farmers. "Morning," Kelly said, opening the door with her usual calm. He didn't respond right away, just scanned the place, eyes locking on. The barn turned gym. "We got a call about domestic violence and unspecified military activity," he said, voice tight as a guitar string. I started to say something light, but Kelly touched my arm. She clearly read the situation like a heartbeat. His, not hers, ready to spiral. "You're welcome to check inside if needed," she said, her tone soft enough to de-escalate, firm enough not to be steamrolled, so he walked in like he was sweeping for landmines. When he reached the gym area, his eyes shifted. I'm guessing it was Kelly's bookshelf, stacked with survival guides, special ops training manuals, and a thick binder labeled Tactical Response in Aquatic Environments. To someone in the know, it's just training material. To a cop looking for a reason to draw, it's a word weapon arsenal. And, as I feared, he pulled his gun, pointing it at Kelly. "Keep your hands where I can see them," he said, voice starting to shake, not from fear, but from the absurdity of his own overreach. In that moment, I flashed back to combat, not because of the gun, but because of Kelly's eyes. No panic, no flinch, just a slight head tilt, like she was adjusting her squat form. Then she said slowly, "Officer, I'm complying, hands still, not approaching any equipment, but I need you to specify, what's the threat you're addressing?" It sounded like a coach's lecture, because it was. The officer wasn't used to being questioned, especially not by a woman in workout gear, hands empty, standing amid dumbbells. He stammered something about tactical training materials and potential threats, but it was clear he'd drawn his gun because he saw a high-intensity yoga book next to a rowing machine. Kelly kept her cool, mentioning that everything was on security cameras and we had a lawyer if needed. At lawyer, he flinched. At cameras, he took half a step back. After a few minutes that felt like a lifetime, he lowered his gun. I exhaled for the first time since the door opened. Kelly didn't move. She just asked, "Officer, do you need us to provide fitness training permits or related legal documents?" When he mumbled, "Not necessary," I realized this wasn't just a failed inspection. Kelly had won by doing nothing except being too professional to be intimidated. Heather leaving, the officer scratched his head, muttering what might have been an apology but didn't dare say it. "I guess there's a misunderstanding." Kelly nodded. No jabs, no gloating, just one line. "Officer, misunderstandings happen when people trust clipboards over facts." I don't know if he caught the dig, but his face went from red to pale real quick. That night we sat on the porch, Kelly still calm. I looked at her. The woman who'd taught soldiers to survive hellish conditions, having just handled a situation that never should have happened. I learned one thing: never underestimate a woman with a filing system, color-coded by month, who doesn't blink at a gun. If you think Candace was just playing classic HOA games, wait till you see her play chess with a 911 call. Stick around for the next part, because this is just getting started. And what do you think? If Candace is playing chess, is she the rogue piece or the whole damn board? Drop a comment below. My wife called it a tactical legal response. I just call it Candace's Doomsday Episode 1. After the cop's gun-drawing stunt, Kelly didn't cry, scream, or post a dramatic Facebook rant. She fired up the printer, reloaded the paper, and started doing the one thing I'm convinced should be banned in any war, unless you want the other side obliterated, a 53-page report with a table of contents, citations, and appendices. I thought I married a fitness coach. Turns out I hitched myself to someone who could end wars with PowerPoint slides. For 3 days, Kelly turned our dining room into a mini CIA hub. She built a timeline tighter than a president's schedule, plastered evidence photos on the walls like she was hunting a federal fugitive, and sent the dossier to 4 places at once: the sheriff, the state attorney's office, the HOA board, and, for reasons I couldn't fathom, the local elementary school's PTA. When I asked why the PTA, Kelly just smirked. "They're the fastest gossip network in town." Candace reacted like you'd expect from someone whose ego just took a sledgehammer to the heart. She frantically filed a counterclaim accusing Kelly of being dangerous, mentally threatening, and conducting military activities in a residential area. If she'd put that energy into studying HOA bylaws, she might be UN Secretary General by now. But life's not a clipboard. In court, she walked straight into the trap Kelly had set. A recorded clip from Candace's first day lurking by our gate played, featuring this gem: "I'll ruin her life like she ruined my sister's career." The courtroom went silent, just the judge clearing his throat and a groan from Candace's lawyer choking on defeat. Kelly sat there, quiet, polite, wearing glasses like an English teacher. But every word she spoke sliced through Candace's last shred of dignity. She presented the timeline, photos proving Candace's weeks of stalking, the report on the anonymous 911 call, and my favorite, a breakdown of spelling errors in every HOA letter Candace sent the community. "I swear," the judge started chuckling, "the twist? The court didn't just dismiss Candace's claim. It slapped her with a restraining order. The HOA held an emergency meeting and issued a statement that afternoon. Candace was ousted as HOA president, stripped of fine-issuing power, and, here's the kicker, ordered to pay all legal fees, $11,000, 0 cents. Yep, Candace was now officially a regular citizen with a bill longer than the HOA member list. Outside the courthouse, Kelly didn't gloat. She just adjusted her blazer, nodded to the security guard, and said to me, "Done." I, meanwhile, wanted to dance like a college grad at commencement. Candace stood across the parking lot, looking like the universe had just punched her with a civics lesson. If looks could burn paper, Kelly's dossier would be ash. But Kelly didn't look back. For her, this wasn't revenge. It was a proportionate response. Ghost style. That night, I asked Kelly if she felt relieved. She looked at me, sipped her tea, and said, "Not relieved. Right." One word. Sharp. Heavy. I stared at the woman once seen as the farmer's wife with a mini-gym, who'd just flipped an entire HOA legal system in under a week and thought, marry someone who wields paper clips and bylaws like military-grade weapons. If you think the story ends here, think again. Candace didn't vanish quietly, but the next part involves a BBQ, a board vote, and a detail that had the whole neighborhood laughing all summer. Stick around for the final twist that got Candace officially banned from every HOA Facebook group. And drop a comment. Should Candace go back to kindergarten for HOA law or start with a special preschool program? When the HOA offered Kelly the interim president role, I thought they were trying to clean a floor with gasoline. Kelly just laughed. "Sweetheart," she said, "I don't need power. I need logic and a whiteboard." And true to form, she walked into the first post-Candace HOA meeting with a whiteboard, markers, and a 3-phase reform plan written clearer than a NATO campaign brief. People thought she was there to beg for the job. Nope. She was there to redefine community. She opened with, "I'm not against HOAs. I'm against clipboards used for the wrong reasons." That got her first round of applause from an old guy once fined by Candace for planting peppers out of alignment. In 30 minutes, Kelly laid out her plan to overhaul the HOA, scrapping absurd rules like fines for tall grass, wrong Pantone shade on doors, and no planting trees without the aesthetic committee's blessing. Next up, a veteran support group and free self-defense classes for local women. I looked around. People were nodding, like they'd finally found a GPS in a desert of fines. A month later, Metabrook turned into a place where you could throw a BBQ any day and someone would show up with beer instead of calling the cops over non-ISO-compliant smoke. Kids played soccer in the street without getting yelled at for red sneakers disrupting neighborly visuals. Best of all, for the first time ever, no one got an HOA letter for leaves falling in the wrong wind direction. The yoga teacher Candace, once threatened to revoke her breathing license, was now teaching mindfulness classes courtesy of Kelly, with free bottled water from our farm. And Candace? She quietly put her house up for sale. No farewell party, no thanks for your service plaque, just a Facebook post. For sale, urgent relocation. One day I saw her leave town in her old white SUV, her flat-ironed hair trembling under a wide-brimmed hat, like a villain cut from a show mid-season. People stopped gossiping about her. Candace had become a cautionary tale. Break the new rules and you'd hear, "Careful, we've had a Candace before." The twist? One sunny day, someone put up a sign at our farm's gate, solid wood, laser-etched, with LED lights circling it, "Ghost Training Grounds, free-range grass." The mail carrier dropped off a package, took a selfie with it, and asked Kelly, "You teaching classes for husbands or boyfriends? I've got a brother who's been HOA tortured for 3 years." Kelly just smiled. That quiet smile I knew meant a strategic HOA defense training system was already in the works. The world changed, not because of a clipboard, but because of a woman who used it like a silent weapon. She didn't grab power, she redesigned how people live together. From someone stalked for hanging yoga mats, Kelly became a town legend, where folks started caring more about neighbors than fence paint colors. And that, friends, is how you turn weeds into a win. Candace thought she was hunting a housewife. Instead, she woke a dormant special operative. A system of response, documentation, strategy, and legal counterstrikes, all without raising her voice. Just a look, a pen, and the ability to turn a clipboard from a weapon into a punchline. Ever met a Candace type? Did they have a clipboard? Or have they upgraded to a pink laser pointer? Share in the comments and stick around. You don't want to miss the final ghost move that checkmated the HOA. What story do you want me to tell next? The fake HOA? The neighbor who looked at the camera? Or the president who painted her house shrimp paste color and then sued the whole neighborhood? Comment below. I'll pick a topic that will make you laugh, get angry, and nod your head. Yeah, that's America.